It's a soggy, wet, rather dull day, the first week of January. I'm nice and dry here in the polytunnel, but what a perfect time to look back at 2023's growing year and look at the highs and the lows as I think about moving forward and making plans.
So January, the polytunnel's looking pretty empty, but relatively okay. The carrots in that bed are coming along nicely, and you can just see some empty pots. I've got a few straggly looking seedlings, and the beds outside aren't looking bad, and you can just see a few of the brassicas there to my left, the right of the picture. And the flower bed looking not great, some onions there, and then in the other bed just a few odds and sods, but I've already started mulching those beds. Then came the snow. It was beautiful, but obviously no growing or sowing or doing a lot. But it was so pretty. February is when we started pulling down some of that holly hedge, or should I say trimming down some of that holly hedge, because it was really starting to block out the light across the polytunnel and in fact the whole of the plot. So it was great to really start getting on top of that to let in some light. And here I am in the polytunnel. Look at that sunshine, t-shirt, mug of coffee, and really starting to plan the year ahead. Not a huge amount going on, but you can see the little propagators there, so I'd obviously got some seeds on the go already. And more seeds, so I was really ahead of the game, starting to sow various seeds ready for the season ahead. Fingers crossed there. I was obviously talking about something that I was hoping would do well, and still looking around lots of seedlings. I think they were leek that I'm showing you there, and they look like peppers and spring onions, and really going through my seeds. And then we get into March. Look at those sweet peas coming along nicely, lots of things starting to sprout and grow. I don't use heat or artificial light. Everything's done in the polytunnel, and I very occasionally start some things off in the house. Those look like nasturtium. They're coming along beautifully, and oh, did they come along beautifully. You'll see them later on in this video. And I've got all sorts of tomatoes. That looks like a bean possibly to the right there. Oh, I tried those beautiful Grushovka tomatoes, lush pink and delicious. Lots of seedlings. I think they look like some brassicas. Oh, they may have been the kalettes. Starting to sow some seeds. I think they would have been carrots. Carrots are starting to come, and carrots already on the go. And there we've got the chard and so on in the polytunnel. Beds outside looking good. And then we get into April, when I finally got around to cleaning the polytunnel. I was really late in 2023. And you can see those mulched beds, and I'm starting to weed and do various bits and pieces and get some potatoes in. And I put them all in pots. And the sunshine, spring sunshine, which I'm so looking forward to this year. I'm desperate for a bit of sunshine. Look at those seedlings, everything coming along beautifully in the polytunnel there. And I started to put lots of fresh compost down, ready for planting out. And look at those beautifully freshly mulched beds. Into May, a little bit of weeding going on there. You can see I've already got my overwintered onions in. I've mulched some of the beds in the polytunnel, and again, look at those plants coming along beautifully and getting really close now to planting those out. More seeds started there. The carrots looking great, and I think I've interplanted some onions with those as well. And then tubs getting filled and topped up ready. The flower beds, some lovely little daffodils there coming through, and you can see some of the other plants there also. The potatoes there were looking good. Those are onions or shallots. I think they may have been shallots, and some leek. More hedge trimming. We had Chris's cousin came and helped us to really chop that holly hedge down. And this is my asparagus that I sowed from seed, and that will be going out into the ground this year. So that's coming along really, really well. You can see how happy I was with that. Quite exciting. June, and things are starting to really look quite lush and I'm starting to plant things out. The onions are coming along beautifully that I've overwintered, and I've built that structure that I'm now sitting under, which I grew nasturtium and little mini pumpkins up. And this is me planting out some squash, and you can see I've got all my brassicas ready to go out as well. So that was the big plant out. There's a few more brassicas at the bottom end of that bed, but that bed predominantly had squash in it. And this year I did actually try putting diatomaceous earth around them just to try and help out with that slug damage. Some nasturtiums in pots looking beautiful, the Californian poppies there, and I'm starting to harvest my overwintered onions, and boy did I have a bumper crop of onions. You can see me taking them there into the polytunnel, and then I put them in the slats to cure. The courgettes coming thick and fast. I grew the little round ones this year. Peas in the polytunnel, they were absolutely delicious, and the geraniums were looking really, really pretty. I think that's me just going off to cool down a bit in the shed after harvesting yet another bumper crop of onions. July, and the bunting went up. I'd painted the shed. I got my shorts on. Again, I think that's the asparagus that I was so absolutely delighted about, and I'm really looking forward to planting that out. August, and the harvests are starting to come thick and fast. I grew lots of different varieties of tomato, and that's me getting in some cucumber, and some different tomatoes there, a courgette. But look how lush the polytunnel looks. Some peas there. I think that's some dwarf green beans that I'm harvesting. The flower bed looked absolutely fabulous. The harvests again coming thick and fast. That peppermint chard was absolutely delightful, and I'm definitely going to be growing that again. Parsnips there looking good, and I think there's some salads, and you can just see the beans going over the bean arches. All sorts going on. August, everything was flourishing. Tomatoes starting to really look good there. And outside, the pathways were looking great, and lots of things covered, as you can see, with netting. I'd clearly had a really good day there, and a nice harvest to take across to the house. August was when we took on some more chickens. That you can see 3 of them, but we actually took 4 new chickens on. This is me weeding the brassica bed, and you can see the brassicas are coming along really nicely there. I think they're the Brussels sprouts. A little bit of pest damage, but not bad. And these are the banana shallots that I actually grew from seed. Oh my goodness, they've been delicious. We've still got lots of those, and we're still eating them. The squash was starting to ripen up. Those are the yukiki kiri. I think I had some butternut as well, but they didn't do so well. And possibly some crown prince, which didn't do at all. Here are some of my favourite Chioggia beetroot, and they were fantastic again this year. And this is me, I think, weeding and preparing that bed. I'm not sure what went into it next, but you can see things are looking good. And I started harvesting my potatoes, and I had some really nice potatoes out of those buckets. Carrots in the polytunnel. I think I find they do really well in the polytunnel. I've never really grown them since I've lived here outside. That's the banana shallots coming in. So again, harvest is just coming thick and fast. September, look at those tomatoes. They're still coming thick and fast. And I put in my Christmas potatoes. October, and you can see the chickens are really settled in now, and they're integrated with our original chickens, which are Old English Game. Starting to get to the end of the mini peppers. They were absolutely delicious. Chilies didn't do so well this year. Look at those nasturtium, aren't they just delightful? And also not as many as I would have liked, really only over one side, but we did get some of these mini pumpkins, which were just super cute. And that's me harvesting one of my yukiki kiri, which are my all-time favourite squash. And you can see the brassicas looking great there as well. Everything was just looking lovely. November, the tomatoes were still coming thick and fast. I think they were the Roma that I was starting to get in. And those are the geranium, which I brought into the house to overwinter, and they're still flowering and looking really, really cheerful. Some green tomatoes there, but I started to clear things out. So I was actually a bit ahead of the game there, than I normally am, starting to pull up those tomatoes. Often I've left them until December, but I started to get those in November and start to clear those beds. And I grew less over the winter months than I normally do. December, the brassicas are looking good. That's me starting to think about getting the netting off, and having a good old look. I'm getting some pickings there from, I think it was purple sprouting broccoli there, and some other bits and pieces. The kalettes were absolutely fabulous. You can just see those at this end. But yeah, the brassicas did really well this year. And then this is me harvesting for our Yuletide meal. And we had, so this is December, and I've got carrots, parsnips, some leek, some potatoes. Not the best harvest of potatoes, but we did have some for our festive meal. Some Brussels sprouts, and that's me harvesting some swede. So we had an absolute abundance, and there's still a few out there. And that's me popping my onion sets in. I normally have them in the ground by now, but I was a little bit late.
So I hope you've enjoyed that little look back over 2023, and I'm really excited to go into the growing year ahead. So do put me a comment below and let me know what your growing year was like in 2023, and are you as excited as me as we move forward into spring?